can I please introduce Mary Mitchell to you? Thank you.
Good afternoon. And you'd have thought being Kelly's boss, essentially, you'd have thought I'd had more influence than not to have to take the slot straight after lunch. Thanks, Kelly. But so as Hugh said, I joined Scotland Excel last year full-time, and I have the part of the portfolio that includes construction, transport and environmental services. So many of the things we've heard about today around responding to the challenges we have for climate emergency sit with me in the organisation. But Energy Efficiency Contractors Framework is what I'm here to talk about today. And I feel a wee bit, that I can't really take a lot of credit for that because, as I said, I joined last summer at a point just before the tender was going out. So if you get any hard questions about the framework, John Stinson's your man. So we'll get to that in a moment. But I'm pleased to have this opportunity to speak about the framework. Particularly because, as Hugh said, I came from Perth and Kinross Council. Hello to those of you that are here, and I've already greeted some of you. And it does actually help having some people in the audience that you know quite well, so it makes this slightly less daunting. But I was aware in that role as a procurement manager in a council that finding the solutions we need to have to be able to kind of support all those goals of improving the quality of our social housing stock, reducing fuel poverty, increasing tenant satisfaction, and essentially, I suppose, improving the whole programming of the work. That was a really, difficult challenge, a difficult balance to strike. So having something like this framework to talk about for me is a real privilege. So moving on to my actual slides, I want to say a little bit about Scotland Excel because I'm conscious not all of you may have been involved with us in the past, but looking forward to being more deeply involved with this going forward. So we're the Procurement Centre of Expertise for Local Government. We were established in 2008 out of a report to the government about public procurement and the potential for improvement there, and certainly our whole journey has been about supporting that improvement. We're a not-for-profit organisation and governed by a joint committee of elected members of the 32 local authorities who are our core members. But we also have a wide associate membership. Many of the associate members are social landlords, and that's very helpful in respect of the connection for taking this framework forward. So moving on to the kind of, I suppose, what Scotland Excel does in practical terms. You've got up there, I've got it down here, and I can't really see it because I'm slightly shorter than whoever was here before me. But transport and environment we talked about, and that, as I said, sits with me. We also do a lot in respect to social care, which most of you will know is about 30% of what Scottish local government spends their money on, so a very important area of our business as well. And we do a lot of the kind of corporate goods and services around education and other things that councils in particular buy, but are also picked up. ICT, for example, for all of our associate members is another important set of services. But today, the Energy Efficiency Framework sits within my construction part of my portfolio. And the whole driver for us at the moment is how do we help you solve those challenges around achieving net zero in your procured work. So, moving... Oh. Didn't realise this had animation in it. Apologies. I'm just going to bring it all up, and that saves me having to worry about speaking out of turn with the slides themselves. So for me, I said to one of my colleagues this morning, the trouble I will have today is sticking to my script and actually following what I intended to tell you. So apologies for that. So the key things for me around the Energy Efficiency Framework are those policy objectives. You heard quite a lot about those this morning, and we have worked really hard, along with others that have been involved in the development framework, to make sure that those policy drivers are what the framework is paying attention to for you. The supply chain has also been covered in a variety of ways this morning. We've talked, the whole theme of that morning segment was about supply chain development. And we've got 46 contractors on the framework, and that was a deliberate move on our part because we were looking to expand that supply chain, increase the capacity and the available number of contractors, the variety of contractors, and the kind of options for services under the framework. The developing supply chain side as well. Kelly has probably spoken to many of you in the room about how we've been working with the contractors since the framework was awarded, and I'll say a little bit more about how that's built up over the next couple of slides. And in terms of partnerships, we have other people in the room, but this morning, many of the organisations involved in the development framework have been in the room this morning as well. Katrina and Neil, we've had input from the organisations they work from. The Scottish Government, Craig was here, and the Minister as well. John's coming on to tell you a little bit about the role his organisation took in helping us with our technical specification, because as all of you will know, and I know some of you will be from technical backgrounds, some of you are from procurement backgrounds, but the best procured solutions are always that kind of meeting of procurement minds with the commercial offer available and the kind of technical needs being met. And that's what we've tried to do here, is bring all of that together and take the best of it and create a framework that will serve all of those policy drivers that we talked about this morning. And the timing of this is pretty opportune, but it's also a little bit terrifying, because when I was preparing this presentation, I was thinking, this framework runs from this year for the next 4. And by the time this framework comes to an end, we'll be halfway to 2030. So, it's a pretty critical time to get that foundation in place. And then whatever we learn during this journey together, we will apply to the next framework, and that will actually run up to 2030. So that for me was a kind of a real sort of, we're going to be halfway there by the time this framework runs its course. So that I felt was something that was really worth kind of holding on to. I'd also like to say a thank you while I've got the floor. A lot of you in this room contributed to the creation of this framework as well. For those of you that don't know, we have what we call UIGs, user intelligence groups, and those are populated by people from various roles in our customer base, so councils, RSLs, etc., and contribute to expressing what that needs. Could be nearing my time there, I don't know. So expressing the needs of the customer base. So thank you to all of you that are here that contributed either to the development or the evaluation, or indeed getting those first contracts put through the framework. Also to the exhibitors, ladies and gentlemen at the back there, and I hope those of you at the front have taken the chance to have some waving going on there, to have some conversations and to sort of form some relationships, get a better understanding of the contractor base through the exhibition upstairs today. Moving on to the specifics of the framework itself, John Stinson, as you know, is coming up next. Both Hugh and I have mentioned that a couple of times now. We're relying on you there, John. But the framework itself was designed to accommodate a variety of energy efficiency measures, to give you the capacity, as I said, but also to provide professional services, building fabric measures, heating and hot water ventilation measures, and these are all grouped in the lotting structure of the framework, which I know John's going to speak a little bit more detail about. And then the fourth grouping is renewables and energy storage measures. So there's a variety of solutions and options available to you. We structured as we did, I think, really to try and accommodate what we know is going to be a fast-growing industry. It already has been a fast-growing industry, but these 4 years I've just mentioned are going to be critical to kind of get in the shape of that. We also took account of past 2030 and past 2035 in the development of the framework, and I'm not going to try and explain to people in this room what either of those is about, because I'm pretty sure most of you are very much more well-versed than I am. One of the things that I've been put up on this stage to make sure you know is about a quick guide that Kelly and the team have developed on the framework. A really handy, succinct guide to the content of the framework, the way it's structured, how to make a call off, a real step-by-step guide to it. That's going to be emailed to everybody that's attended, so make sure you check that out. I've been really impressed with it. It's really clear, really easy to use. On that, there's a link to the Scotland Excel members area. When you log into that, you get the whole suite of documentation, everything that's included in the framework and how to use it, so don't miss the opportunity to kind of get into that in a bit more detail. this is exactly what happens. That's the slide I was just talking to there. Right, cross-sector collaboration. Hugh mentioned collaboration several times each time we've moved. And for me, this whole framework and some of what I've already said actually covers this. But some of the partners in there speak to some of what you heard this morning. Sean Smith, Professor Sean Smith that spoke last, I don't know if he's still here, but he spoke about waste. Zero Waste Scotland were involved in developing and assessing questions that we put into the tender pack. Some of that was about driving that same sort of agenda as you were hearing about this morning. And please do make best use of it and respond to that appeal that Sean Smith made this morning. Since the award of the framework, we've carried on in that collaborative manner. So the mobilisation meetings with, ladies and gentlemen at the back, the contractors that are on the framework, have been in some of our local colleges, West College Scotland and Forth Valley College, and those have been really to take the contractors through all of the specifics of the framework and how best to use it, so that when you as the customer base come to use it, they've got a full understanding. And one of the reasons we put so much time and effort into that is 2/3 of the contractors that are on our energy efficiency framework are new either to Scotland Excel as a whole or are new to our energy efficiency framework. This is our second generation of energy efficiency. So it was important that we really explained how that works in both sides of the supply relationship. Moving on to slide 6, which that might be that. Yep. My takeaways for you today are these 3 things, the kind of policy drivers that took us to where we are with the framework. And you've heard a lot about that skills gap today, and that's one of the reasons the colleges were involved. And John Rennick, who's also at the table with us today, is going to speak about ESP's role and some of the work that they're going to be doing around skills development. And that skills development is partly about meeting the gap that we know exists in the skills that we need to make this all happen. But it's also about enhancing the quality, so as we get into delivering the work, making sure that's done. And again, this is a Sean Smith reference, talking about not having to apologise for having to go back to somebody's home and do it again. So these have all been critical to the work we've done in the framework. Collaboration was on the last slide, but again, can't emphasise that enough. We would appeal, I suppose, that as this framework rolls out, that we make as much use of it as we can, so that the contractor base at the back get the value from it. They've put a lot of effort into getting a place in that framework, and giving them the chance to get as much work through it as possible would be my appeal to those of you at the front. And where that's not working for you, Kelly's at the back there. She'll sort out anything that needs coping with. And she's got Gary as well, that you all know. Gary's now working very closely with Kelly, so we're expecting that they'll support you in all of these. And in fact, the quick guide gives you their email addresses as well. So all good there. So moving just further on. Got a yellow there that I didn't appreciate I had. One of the other things I really wanted to take the time to say to you was that, and this connects to a lot of what other people said, so the Energy Efficiency Framework is not standalone. This is about retrofit, this framework, but we also have options around new build, and we are also developing this year, working already on what we need to award by August 23, which is the next generation of our new build framework. So again, while I've got the opportunity, those of you that are in the room that are involved in new build programmes, do come and talk to us about what you need in terms of energy efficiency in respect of those new homes, because that will be part of the delivery mechanism for the next, the other side of the house, I suppose. Or so that's a bit of a pun that doesn't really work there. Beg your pardon. So, over and above that as well, also in my portfolio, we are developing maintenance frameworks as well. And, excuse me. They will also need a bit of capacity development, because as you retrofit, we're going to need people to maintain whatever you put into those homes, particularly around the heating systems and hot water. So making sure that we close that loop by developing frameworks, future frameworks that also attend to those needs. And that is me. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I will...